Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Yapurnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Gukarastvandhakaro Vai Rukarastanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. In the discussion of the values today, we will take up some important values for discussion. The basic value, which can be said to be the root or basis of all the values, is ahimsa or non-violence. That is the primary value. And we will see that other values are nothing but modifications or variations of this value called non-violence. Non-violence is primary value because no living being wants violence to be violated. There is a natural law for life in all living beings, and every creature wants to live. Even a cell wants to live. A question may arise, Swamiji, if there is natural law for life in everybody, then how come sometimes we find that people want to take their life, want to commit suicide? So we should add one thing here, that everybody or every creature wants to live and live happily. So this is a basic desire in all the living beings, which includes plants and vegetables also, and all creatures, and insects, coarse animals, and human beings, that every living being wants to live and live happily. And recognizing and respecting this desire or this right, I should say. Everything that is born has a right to live and live happily. And we see that in the creation, there is a provision for every creature that is created. Every creature is given this basic instinct. In Sanskrit, this verse is there, it says ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithunam cha, samanyametat, pashubhi, naranam. All the living beings, including human beings, have these four basic needs. Ahara, there is hunger and thirst, and therefore need to appease hunger or quench thirst. Because body is there, hunger will be there, thirst will be there. Nidra, when one gets tired, there is a need for rest or sleep. That's another need that all creatures have. Bhaya, fear, because there is love for life and there is insecurity, there is fear, and therefore the need to protect oneself from the possible injury or hurt that can be caused to oneself. And Maithunam, natural again, the urge to propagate. So Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, and Maithunam, these are the four desires that every living being is born with. And in the creation, in the scheme of things, there is a provision for every creature to satisfy this fourfold basic desire. So every creature, including plants, trees, all of them know how and where to gather food. They know it. The trees also know how to draw their food from the earth. Every creature has been given this knowledge. Nidra, of course, sleep. Bhayam, each creature also has this knowledge of how to protect itself. The lion may be very powerful and ferocious, and so is tiger, but then little rabbit also knows how to protect itself. Thus, all creatures are not equally powerful, but then all of them have this insight or instinct as to how to protect themselves from fear and propagation. So this is a scheme of things. Of course, another thing about the scheme of things is that one life form becomes a food for the other life form. In Sanskrit they said, Jivo Jivasya Jivanam. One life form supports the other life form. That is the scheme of things. And therefore, when one life takes another life for its sustenance, it being the part of scheme of things, we will not call it violence. Normally, killing something would be violence, of course. Ahimsa means himsaya abhava. Ahimsa means absence of himsa. Himsa means violence. The word himsa is derived from the root hims in Sanskrit, which means to kill, to hurt, to injure. So hurting, injuring, killing, all of these are included in himsa. So ahimsa would be a deliberate attempt on our part to refrain from causing injury, hurt, and of course taking life from others. A deliberate effort on our part to refrain from doing anything that can cause hurt or injury to any living being. Pranam apidanam. Refraining from pida or hurting any living being is called ahimsa, which is a tall order, but this is what ahimsa is. Thus, when we define ahimsa as not hurting or injuring or killing another living being, you may say that, Swami, that is what is constantly going on in nature. Killing is going on constantly in nature because one life form depends upon the other life form. Would you not say that there is violence prevalent everywhere in nature? You would say no, because that is how the scheme of things is. This one life form depending upon other life forms maintains a balance. And that is why when one life or one living being makes other creature its food, it also becomes food for someone else, understand? And that is how this whole chain, food chain, is maintained. And there is a balance maintained in the nature. So when a creature takes the life of another creature, it is only out of necessity and not out of anger or greed or retaliation. Creatures do not kill for the sake of killing, they kill only when it is necessary. So recently someone told me how they had gone to some African country, Namibia, someplace. And they were among the tribes. And they were describing how there was one elephant cub, small one, it was part of a herd. And that little thing, sort of was slower and therefore got separated from the main herd. And I think it was crossing this little stream of water and it was caught by a crocodile. At that time a lion was watching this and it jumped on that and made it killed. And the two lions, both of them came and had a feast of this elephant. But as soon as that hunger was appeased, they stopped and walked away. It is not that they just keep on, they only take what is necessary for them. It is. And now that these lions are free from hunger, other creatures were walking by, which could be their prey also. They didn't bother them at all. That shows that they take from nature only what is necessary and when necessary and how much necessary. So in nature there is no violence for the sake, it's the violence which is there for sustenance of the order. Order would not be sustained if this kind of violence was not in there. In the universe, creation, sustenance and destruction, all the three forces are constantly acting, and then only there can be a balance. Because creation can take place only when there is destruction of the previous stage, otherwise creation cannot take place. So nature, there is a balance of all of these. Therefore, we would say that there is no violence in nature. Nature is non-violent. You might say sometimes, how about all these natural calamities like earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes? Aren't these violent forces? When an earthquake comes, sometimes hundreds and even thousands of people, human beings die and so much destruction takes place. Is there not violence on the part of nature? These tornadoes come and hurricanes and all these things are very violent things. They bring about a lot of destruction. But this is also part of the balancing in nature. Earthquakes are a requirement. If earthquakes are not there, then earth cannot survive. It's an adjustment that takes place underneath and between the plates. And therefore, earthquake also is a balancing event, and that is how earth survives. But Swamiji, an earthquake kills so many people. Now that is our problem, not the problem of earthquake. You happen to live in a place which is earthquake prone, and then you complain that something happened to you. I give an example. There is a pressure cooker, steam pressure cooker. Do you people know that?
Yes.
and then there is a safety valve there. So the pressure goes beyond a certain point, naturally the steam is released. So at that time you happen to be there and doing something, suppose. And the steam is, he says, look at this, is so violent, this cooker is violent. You can't blame that thing, it is just doing its job and you happen to be there. It is the nature of fire to burn. I mean, if you place your hand, you can't blame fire. Meaning that whether there are storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever happens in nature are all necessary things to maintain various balances and pressure here high and low and all sorts of things there. So it's all part of the order. Whatever happens in nature is part of order. If it did not happen, the order would be disturbed. So in general, we can make a statement that nature is there is non-violence in nature. And we can take our lessons from nature always. And so, by nature we mean not only all these unconscious forces such as wind and storms or water, etc., or oceans and rivers, but all living beings also, they all live in harmony. Before human being entered this earth, there was all prosperity and harmony and, there was no global warming, there was no problem anywhere. The only entity that creates any problems or violence or suffering is human being. Although we blame God sometimes that your God has created this world and what kind of world has He created and what sort of suffering is there. But if we want to blame God, we can only blame Him for having created human being. Or having given free will to the human being. That is called freedom, which can be abused and therefore where a human being has free will which is subject to being abused. The human being also has been given many things, including an intellect, a head with intellect, with which it can learn, it can know, it can grow, it can evolve, it can create. And we can see what wondrous human mind has done over centuries and what an amount of development and prosperity and comfort it has created. That's a great endowment that human being has, the intellect, which is a very powerful endowment because with the help of the intellect, human being can control much more powerful entities. In a circus, a human being fellow controls a lion and a tiger and an elephant and all kinds of creatures. Human being also can control the forces of nature, such as water, such as air, such as whatever, and to his advantage, create a lot of things for himself. So we use, water for hydraulic power. We use air for, the what do you call them? The windmills and whatnot. That's all intelligence. Meaning that the intelligence has a capacity to be very creative, and it is a great blessing to the world. But anything that is a blessing when abused can also become a curse. So you know how the human intellect has been a curse also whenever it has been abused. It has caused many wars and a lot of suffering. So whatever suffering we see anywhere is the result of abuse of human free will. If there is starvation someplace, there is wars in another place, there is torture in third place, there is raping, torture, plundering, whatever is all done by human beings. Meaning that we cannot blame the Creator for the suffering that we see around. It is all the result of abuse of human free will. So free will coupled with intellect has been a great blessing to the universe. At the same time, it has been a great curse also. Meaning that by abuse of free will, a human being is capable of doing violence. The universe, other than human being, doesn't have free will. The rest of the universe is programmed to function in a harmonious manner, and therefore all living and non-living entities, sentient, insentient entities in the creation, they all function in harmony because that is how they are programmed. They don't have a free will which can be abused, and therefore they never harm anything. Sometimes human being brings, he goes to forest and takes some animal with it and he destroys everything. He took some deers and then they multiplied in this, I think it was Yellowstone Park, someplace, and then just brought a lot of destruction. And somebody, bright idea, took some wolves there and then everything worked out all right, These fellows attacked deers. So it was a very interesting video I watched. But how our simple mistakes also can bring about so much damage. And human being is prone to violence because there are some violent forces within himself. Yesterday we talked about kama, krodha, lobha. Kama means lust, krodha means anger, lobha means greed. All of these are violent forces. Meaning that whenever we become subject to be controlled by any of these impulses, then we become violent. When anger takes over me, I become violent. When lust takes over me, I become violent. When greed takes over me, I become violent. Only human being can be violent. No other creature can be violent because they don't have this kind of impulse other than what is planted in them. There is no jealousy among creatures, in nature. There is no competition. There is no jealousy. So this is not there. Whether good, bad or indifferent, that's how it is. But human mind always compares and entertains many complexes. Our Swami was very fond of always quoting that there is a cow with very shapely horns. There's another cow with broken, ugly horns. If these cows are placed in market for selling, one cow may fetch 10,000 rupees, another cow may fetch 8,000 rupees because one is supposedly, both of them give the same amount of milk. The cow doesn't have a complex that I'm an ugly cow and that is a more beautiful, because that is shapely horn, doesn't have any complex at all. The owner of the cow is complex, that this is an ugly cow, and therefore when he sells, he gets more money for one cow, less money for other cow, because only human mind has these complexes. So there are no stresses and strain and complexes and competition and comparison, etc. in all other, in nature. So they are free. They are free. In that sense, there is no stress and strain in them. They are not worried about future. They don't carry any regrets of the past. They live in the present. I'm not suggesting that we become animals, but we can take lessons from them as to what The thing is, they don't have freedom to other than what they are. So, but then we have to deliberately attain a point where we can live in the present. Therefore, they don't have those impulses, violent impulses within them that they can violate anybody. What they do is as they are programmed. Out of fear they may attack, yes, possible. But not out of anger, not out of jealousy, not for retaliation, not that they maintain some kind of an enmity and is waiting for an opportunity. That's what we do. As children, when we went to school, some children harassed us, All right, let him come to my street. So when he goes to school through my, then we wait for him. All this stuff is there in all human beings, retaliation, enmity. All of these cause violence. Meaning violence is very natural to human beings. Cheating, dishonesty is also in our nature. Telling lies also in our nature. Indulgence also is in our nature. And therefore all these mandates are there. Nahimsat sarva bhutani. We will not hurt or injure any living beings. Satyam vada, we will speak truth. No dogs and cats need to be told, or buffaloes, satyam vada, whatever. They always are truthful. There is no pretension or dambha in nature that there is something inside and something else outside. Nobody wears any clothes because they don't have any need to hide their blemishes. They appear as they are. We think that a camel is a very ugly animal. A camel doesn't. So, our own definition of beauty and ugliness, and therefore they call camel an ugly animal because it has all kinds of crooked things. Camel doesn't think so, we think. It doesn't have any complex, otherwise it would have some plastic surgery, etc. They don't need that. We need that. We have a problem. The nose is a problem, and the eyebrows are a problem, and all kinds of things are problems. So many people sustain on us because of these complexes. Since they are free from complexes, therefore there are no competition, no jealousies, no anger, no retaliation, no enmity, other than what is required for sustaining the life. We have all this. So we are born with this identification. Every creature identifies with the body. But they do not have the kind of self-consciousness that we have. We have very evolved self-consciousness. And therefore, we are keenly conscious about our limitation. It's not the other creatures are not limited. They all are much more limited than we are. But they are not evolved enough to be aware of their limitation, therefore they don't have any complexes. We are highly evolved, and that's the price we pay for evolution, that we are keenly self-conscious and therefore entertaining many complexes about ourselves because we are conscious about our limitations also. And limitation is something that I cannot accept about myself. So we have complexes, we compare, we have jealousies, etc. So these are the reasons why there is violence. Yesterday he talked about Vedanta. I avoided any Vedanta here. But if I mention some basic Vedanta here, then all violence arises from ignorance. We are born ignorant. Everybody is born. If there was no ignorance, there would have been no birth and no creation at all. So creation, even our birth itself is due to ignorance. I won't go into those details right now. But point is that we are born ignorant of the true nature of our own self. Whereas in reality, each one of us is, as I said, a beautiful, kind, loving, wonderful individual. We are complete in what we are. We do not need anything to be happy. We have everything. We are everything. Why we have everything? That's the reality about ourselves. Unfortunately, we do not know that. Not only we do not know that we are everything or that we are complete, we take ourselves to be opposite of what we are. We take ourselves incomplete. There's a basic complex with which we are suffering. I am an incomplete being. I am a limited being. I am lacking. I am wanting. This is the kind of feeling with which each one of us is suffering from the birth. This is the result of ignorance. And that is the cause of violence. That sense of inadequacy, sense of limitedness, which creates in me a desire to become free from limitations, so then from ignorance is the desire. From desire, action to fulfill that desire. If I manage the desire, then my actions will be all right. They are likely to be on the line of dharma. But desire is like fire. More you fulfill the desire, stronger it becomes, and a time comes when desire starts controlling me. When I manage my desires, then dharma also slowly sacrifices, and adharma comes in my life. What is dharma? Following the basic values of life. What is adharma? Violating the values. So it is that pressure of desire, and desire causes anger because when my desire is not fulfilled, then a frustrated desire transforms itself into anger. You'll find that behind every bout of anger, there is unfulfilled expectation or unfulfilled demand. And we'll talk about that. But because of ignorance, there are expectations in me which are all false, but they are there. The basis of all expectation is I am incomplete, I am a needy, wanting being, and therefore there is an expectation that I should become free from that. But my feeling of neediness, wantingness, etc. is from ignorance, but that's where we are right now. So we feel needy, wanting. So there is an impulse to become free from the neediness, wantingness, lack, limitedness. I cannot tolerate that about myself. And therefore the desire, behind all desires, to become free from want, lack, neediness, smallness, limitedness, which manifests a variety of desires. And desire being what it is, the more you try to fulfill that, more it grows in intensity, and a time comes when it starts controlling me. Instead of my managing desires, desires start managing me. In which case, I lose my free will to do what. If I had my free will, I would do what is right. But when I am controlled, then that desire decides what I do, not I decide, in which case values are likely to be violated. That's how adharma comes, or violation of values, or violation of order comes. This is where violence begins. Adharma, meaning that violation of values is where the violence begins. So ultimately, we can become totally, not only a wise person is totally non-violent. We are all going to be violent in one measure or the other. That is just for information. Where is the source, where is the root of violence? But Swami, not only human being is ignorant, all creatures are ignorant. That is true. They are ignorant and all that. but they are not evolved enough to recognize a sense of lack or want. If they don't feel a lack or want, they don't have any complex because they are not evolved. To have a complex, also you should be an evolved person. We are evolved, highly evolved. Therefore, we have these complexes. And all of this becomes a cause of violence. Meaning that our self-consciousness, which is a great gift or a boon, itself is the cause of all problems also. So what can be a solution can also be a problem, etc. And that's how in course of time this greed and anger and lust and jealousy and etc. all slowly take hold in our mind. When we take liberties, when we violate the values, then these tendencies, these impulses, they all slowly take hold in our mind. So we all have this. Even from the birth, in varying degrees, each one of us has anger. We have this greed, we have this lust, we have jealousies, we have these various complexes, we have them. And therefore there is potential of violence in each one of us, in every human being. If it is not checked, or if we do not understand how violence causes damage to ourselves and to others, then we won't worry about things. We will just behave as our desire, impulses are. And many people do that. Whatever impulses arise in the mind, it's allowed to express itself in the words and actions, and that's how violence is very common. But then that violence damages the one who becomes the object of violence, but it damages one who is violent first. Violence first damages the one from where it emerges, and then it may also hurt someone who becomes object of that violence. And so this is the source of all our unhappiness. We would not worry about violence if it did not do anything to us, but it is the source of all sorrow and unhappiness. Because when we are violent, we are going against the nature, against our own nature. Also, as we said yesterday, that our nature is of love and kindness, and violence is of hatred and cruelty, and therefore violence means going against our own nature that causes all split, all conflicts and sorrow in our mind. So violence is the cause of all the sorrow. We can always blame other people for our sorrow. But if you have to blame, there is no point in blaming ourselves also, but understanding that the source of all sorrow lies within ourselves. And therefore, we have the freedom and responsibility to deal with that. And that is why these values are taught to us. We told you yesterday how it is violating the value that causes all conflicts and sorrow within ourselves. Therefore, following the value is a means of progressively becoming free from sorrow and conflict. So that is where non-violence comes as a primary value. And we told you the basis that all values are determined from how I expect to be treated by others. I do not want to be hurt by anybody. I do not want to be hurt physically. I do not want to be hurt emotionally. In two ways we can get hurt, or we can hurt others. We can hurt others at the physical level, or we can hurt others at emotional level also. We can bring about physical hurt, or we can hurt their feelings and sentiments. That also is hurt or violence. So it is quite likely that we can cause violence to others at two levels, at the level of their body and at the level of their mind. We can hurt them. Unfortunately, there is something called the law of karma, which is no big deal, it's just a law of cause and effect. The effect is in comparison to, compatible to the cause. As you sow, so you reap. And therefore, when we carry out violence, we cannot escape the consequences. We cannot escape consequences of anything that we do. If you do good, then you are rewarded, of course. At the same time, when we violate, then we are going to be punished. Meaning we will have to, suffer from punishment. Not that there is somebody sitting up there. It is whatever you radiate is what comes boomerangs to you. That's all. If you go in among the mountains and say love, love, then there is a love and love. Mountains will echo. So I hate you, then there is I hate you. So whatever it is that we radiate towards the world is echoed back to us, a simple rule. The violence goes out from us in one way or the other, in some form, unfortunately, it will come back to us and cause us pain and sorrow. Apart from the law of karma, that we will have to pay the consequences of what we do. That's the secondary thing. That's the second thing also. So thus, violence is whenever we become controlled by our impulses. That is when there is abuse of free will. Because the free will, the freedom to act, is sacrificed whenever we become controlled by impulses. I can exercise my free will only when I am deliberate. Only when I am together as a person. Only when I am present. But when I get angry, I am not present, and therefore it's not I who makes the decision, my anger makes the decision, and that is how the violence occurs. So first of all, to know this, that this is how things are, to just look at our own life objectively, from this basic understanding as to how I am. As I said, I am a very loving, beautiful, kind person. That's my basis about me. But then at the same time, these aberrations also enter because of ignorance. As I am a wonderful, beautiful being. But because of ignorance, aberrations have come. They are not our nature. The so-called impulses are not our nature. But they are the intruders. They have intruded into our mind. If you are not careful and somebody rings a bell and you open the door and then he just pushes himself inside and takes hold of things. Similarly also all these kind of impulses such as anger, etc. have intruded into us. In fact, we did not even know that they were our enemies. We have ourselves cultivated some of these things for our protection as a defense mechanism. Imagine a child growing up in a home. He has older siblings and there are people, when child is small, he is very weak. Surrounded by people who are very strong and powerful. So this little thing feels threatened and so it has to protect itself. It will scream, throw tantrums. Anger. So everybody will keep away from that. So I have myself, in fact, perhaps developed these things as defense mechanisms. So I thought they were all my friends. And even today also people feel, Swamiji, without anger you cannot get anything done. You want to get done something? You have to. Swami, if you are not angry, our children won't listen to us. The boss thinks that if I am not angry, they won't listen to me. So we think that is anger with which we can get things done. This is an unfortunate conclusion that has arisen in us, and therefore anger is justified. But when we recognize that it is not our friend, it's our enemy. Yesterday we talked about something inside. Arjuna asked this question of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Oh Lord, what is it that compels me to go against my value? What is it that makes me perform an unbecoming action without my desiring so? Anichanna vivarshaya. I don't want it, and I find myself doing things that is not right, which I later regret. Why do I do that? What makes me do that? Some compelling factors are there which make me do that. And Arjuna asks this question. And Lord Krishna says, Kameshaha, Krodeshaha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. It is called Kama. It is called Kama means, in general translation, tendency to indulge. Not every desire, but tendency to indulge can be called Kama. Meaning that I cannot control myself when some tempting things come before me, and therefore I indulge into that. I do not observe boundaries of what is right for me, what is healthy for me, what is good for me. I cross the boundaries because of that impulse of indulgence. That is called Kama. And when my desire or demand is not satisfied, that very Kama or the desire turns into Krodha or anger. Kamesha, Krodesha, Lord Krishna says. Meaning that what is Kama now becomes Krodha then. Kama itself gets transformed into Krodha. What is Kama? Call it desire, call it expectation, call it demand. Yesterday we say that we are very demanding people, we make demands upon others as to how they should be. We have prescription for everybody else. How the world around me should conduct itself. I have prescription. What they should do and what they should not do. Why? Because that's what I want. I want to be comfortable with myself. And therefore, I expect you to act in a certain manner that I am comfortable with myself. It's amazing how I make demands and expect upon other people. Behind every demand, there is really a begging, please make me happy. When I say sit down, what it means is, please make me happy. Because I am not comfortable when you are standing up. Sit down. Don't talk like that. Meaning when you talk like that, I'm not comfortable. You can't eat that because when you're eating that, I'm not comfortable. In every demand, what is really basically demanded is I should be comfortable. Since I cannot make myself comfortable, you make me comfortable by conducting yourself as I want you to. This is the demand. This is begging, really speaking. But anyway, this is how it is. We do not realize that I have a problem within myself, and that problem is superimposed upon you, and I expect you to conduct yourself in a certain manner so that I am comfortable. So my demands basically are for my own comfort. And when that demand is not fulfilled, I become uncomfortable. And that discomfort of frustration with myself results into anger. Thus, Kamesha, Krodesha. Krodha or anger is a distorted form of a demand. An unfulfilled or frustrated demand transforms itself into anger. Thus, we can learn from every episode of anger. When we get angry, we do get angry. And then do something which is maybe later on we may regret if we are sensitive people. But if I value becoming free from anger, if I think that without anger you can't do anything, then you will never get rid of it. But I realize that anger is my enemy, is not my friend. Vidye namahe vairinam, Lord Krishna says, know this to be your enemy. Vairinam, vairi means enemy. So if I recognize that anger is my enemy, it is like fire, as we said yesterday. Fire first burns where it originates and then it may burn something else. So anger is a fire which burns me first. For becoming angry, my mind must burn. Otherwise I can't be angry. What was his name? Cassius Clay's name, what was his name? Muhammad Ali says, you have to have a killer instinct. You go there, must kill. That is all you should be. Then only you can fight this boxing thing. Otherwise you will be killed. It's either this or that. It's a fight between two beasts, that's all it is. I mean, I have no business to say it's a sport supposedly, but anyway. Human beings are all kinds of cruel sports. Like the Romans had those, gladiators and so forth, yeah. But anyway. So this kind of instinct are there in us and they get evoked. So thus, anger may hurt somebody, but before it hurts somebody, it hurts me. It is like fire. I should know that. That every time I submit myself to an anger, it's a little trauma. Like every time there is a heart attack, even a little bit, we don't even know. When doctor tells you that you already had 2 small things, which we didn't know that. But they have left some mark. I think every heart attack leaves some mark, isn't it? Yeah. Thus, every anger leaves a mark. It's a trauma. The mark may be insignificant, so we may not even feel it. It comes and goes away. It doesn't seem to have done anything. It does the damage. But we understand damage when the damage builds up. Little by little by little. In India, all these youngsters have their motorbikes. Here they have cars, but there they have motorbikes. And to check their speed, the municipality has all sorts of what they call the bumps or the speed breakers, But also used to call back breakers, speed breakers. To check these fellows' speed, you see, you can check them, you cannot check them. And so he runs his bike over this bump. Now, he's a 20-year-old young man, doesn't feel anything, all these bumps don't do anything to him, but they do. Every time he jumps like that, a small little trauma is there, little. During the day, 10, 15 times it may be happening to him. Doesn't care, it doesn't seem to have any effect, but only when he becomes 45, one morning he wakes up, my back there's a catch in my back. So they say, I think you slept in a certain way and nothing like that. It is a build-up of this 25 years. It doesn't happen by sleeping. I must have slept that and that. What do you mean? No. Similarly, every time I get angry, a little trauma. At the age of 45 or 50, there is mid-age crisis. I feel I'm depressed, very sad. Because you lost in business. That one event doesn't do that. It is a build-up of all this anger and the violation of values. It all builds up. We have to pay the price of it, unfortunately. So then we realize that all these fellows are our enemies, they are not friends. It looks like we overcome them, but they always leave their mark. And they cause a little damage, insignificant, meaning damage which is not noticeable to us. But when all little traumas build up, then heart attack comes. It doesn't come just like that. It is a result of a lot of years of things which builds up into that. This is what I believe in. It is not an event just like happen. Nothing happens just like that. I would think. Doctors may contradict me, but I would think that no such thing happens just like that. It is a build-up of the body also. So when we realize that all these fellows are our enemies, they are not friends, and they are damaging me, they rob me of my capacities, rob me of the joy of my life. They, apart from, so they make life miserable. I may be a highly successful person by the standard of the world. I may be a wealthy person, a very powerful. But if these enemies have been entertained, I am a miserable person. Meaning that the inner comfort has no connection with outer comfort. What we can achieve in our life in terms of success is, of course, wealth and fame, power, that you can, because you have been given those capacities, independent of this emotional faculty. There is another faculty, the intellectual faculty, with which you achieve these things. But all your happiness, unhappiness, all is at emotional level. Understand that we do not live life at intellectual level, we live life at emotional level. It is our mind that lives a life, not intellect. And that is quite possible that there are wonderful ideas in the intellect and there is nothing in my life because it is not percolated from here to here. And there is hardly walking the talk, they say, walk and talk are so different. That's also you to address. But the point is that we essentially live our life at the emotional level. And therefore our Puja Swami is talking about emotional maturity. Not only intellectual maturity is required, but then emotional maturity. Who is an immature person? Who submits himself to all these impulses, who is controlled by impulses, an immature person. Who can manage those impulses, a mature person. To be happy, therefore, we must be emotionally mature. To be powerful and wealthy and famous, intellectual stuff. That's all the ego level. Happiness is not at that level. Understand this. We equate happiness with those things, which is a wrong conclusion. You don't experience happiness by intellect. You experience happiness at the emotional level. And that is what we are talking about in terms of values. This is what we want, gain the maturity and purity, and that is where you get the happiness. If you have that, you don't need anything else. That's a different matter. Meaning that we should recognize that these fellows are our enemies. Vidyenam have I understand them to be your enemy. Lord Krishna says, Tayor navashamagache taukhyasya paripanthinav. Here, Arjuna, do not get controlled by raga, dvesha or attachment, aversions, because they are your enemies. They will rob you of all your peace and happiness. So, unfortunately, or whatever, our enemies are all dwelling inside, not outside. So, Lord Krishna says, your own mind can be your enemy, your own mind can be your friend. A mind which is controlled by the impulses is my enemy. A mind that is free from those impulses is my friend. So these values are meant for making our own mind our friend, so that it can become the means of happiness. And that's why the non-violence is a primary value, because Everybody loves non-violence. Nobody loves violence. Everybody wants to live and live happily. Every living being. Recognizing this basic need and respecting that basic need. That every living being has a right to live and live happily. And that we should not interfere with the right. We should not trample upon the right. A contributor is a person who supports that right. So, what is meant by serving others is to be sympathetic and supporting the right of living and living happily. That is called contribution. But at least you don't hurt them. If you don't contribute, at least you don't hurt them. Respect everybody's life to live and live happily. So this is the basis of non-violence. We'll continue in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.